Hello everyone, I prepared this video a few days ago so that everything would go smoothly and according to the plan. I am very pleased to be able to present the preliminary results of the research at Kalishanki Howard Discovery Site on behalf of entire research team, complying such a diverse range of archaeological and natural data. Our research is part of a project related to the Howard deposit in monumental construction. Of course, each era, culture, and period understand monumentality in a different way. They are always structures that are very visible and require a lot of labor. And in this way, we understand monumental construction in our project. The first find of this type was the Roscoe Heart. The results of excavation indicate it was deposited under a stone and earth embankment. The structure and the heart were linked. It was a single act. There is no indication of any grave construction. This is, after all, how most of the archaeologists would interpreting something like this. Here is the reconstruction without the layer of soil. Of course, we know from Europe numerous cases of metal objects deposited in older barrows. Erecting such a structure and depositing hard there, or depositing hard and erecting structure can be interpreted very differently. My interpretation you can read in this paper on in other my work. At the time of the discovery of Roscoe Hart, we were convinced that it's the unique case. However, later studies have indicated that there are more hearts that could have been deposited in similar construction. Of course, they could be megaliths of barrows from some other periods. Among other things, this is what our project is concerned with, where some hearts deposited in monumental construction in the late Bronze Age and early Iron Age, and was this a local or regional custom, or perhaps similar behaviors is known from other parts of Europe. The choice to focus on the discovery site of Kalishani Howard was quite obvious. Its location is precisely known. From the other finds, from example Stołężyn and Gogolewo Howards, we only have a more than century-old information, and part of our project is search for the exact place where these howards were deposited. According to archaeological data, mainly the field walking survey, the Kalishani Howard was deposited on the border of two late Bronze and early Iron Age settlement area. On the natural form, this is some kind of bridge over the wetlands. It was discovered in 1943 when the owners of the field tried to level the embankment. They reported that discovery, and in 1944 the documentation you see was made. The fate of the site was quite turbulent, as the land was taken away from the owners immediately after the war, becoming the property of State Farm, some communistic idea. They also tried to level it construction with a Soviet-made bulldozer, which broke down. Information about the heart appeared in archaeological publication. Typochronological analysis of the artifacts were made, but the structure was in some way forgotten and referred as a hill, some natural form. Some memory of the site survived in the local community, but it was associated with times closer to us. This is of course very interesting, but you understand me, limit of time. This is what the embankment looked like before our works. We concentrate in the southern, the undamaged part, and carry out our work in summer 2022, the southwest part of the embankment, and spring 2023, southeast part of the embankment, in two trenches separated by bulk. The road you can see on the slide is located on the north of the embankment. Priori the excavation, we conduct a GPS survey which showed that we have stones, a lot of stones. You can see the stones on different level of our work on all these slides. As you can see, the stone structure was better preserved in some places, but undoubtedly it took a lot of work to build it. They are not simply stones stacked in one place, but there are large borders in the center, which they are surrounded by structure of smaller stones, some of them virtuous of processing, such as fragments of querns and gringers and other tools, while others were formed in such a way that they form wedges to stabilize a structure. The presence of calcium carbonate in the layer beneath stones indicates that, paradoxically, although a great deal of work went into the erection of the stone structure, it was covered with soil immediately after it was built. There was more than 3,000 stones, and I know you are thinking I am crazy, but we measure all of them. We made photographs. They were also identified by petroarchaeologists. You see, the happy students who have to do it on during the excavation. Uh, During this year survey, we track all of the stones using a GNS antenna. We also use photogrammetry and tested other methods of digital documentation, UAV LiDAR and three-dimensional scanning, all to acquire as much information as possible about the structure itself. The compilation of the data is still ongoing. Of course, we tracked with GNS antenna all the artifacts discovered in embankment. Almost all the soil was the sieved. We have a lot of flint artifacts dating to both the Mesolithic and Neolithic. The Mesolithic one, of which there are more, undoubtedly found their way here secondary. In embankment, we also discovered potsherds with very distinctive decoration dating to both the Neolithic and the Late Bronze Age. We discovered fragments of amber, probably one damaged from a pendant. However, what was the most interesting was under the stones. During the excavation in 2022 in the southwestern part of structure, we discovered 5 deposits. The first was at least 3 vessels, ceramic vessels. You can see next step of excavation, these vessels. The second was a kettle remain, mainly a skull. Deposit 3 was a vessel and kettle remains, long bones. They were all very close together. Deposit 1 to 3. It is not excluded that they were relics of a single act of deposition. The next 2 deposits were located close to the center of the structure, the first of which is a very damaged deposit 4, comprising at least 2 vessels. However, deposit 5 is the most interesting. It consists of at least 2 vessels, a human skull, and here the flint blade is also visible. In the case of the vessels, there is no doubt that they were deposited in their entirety. Their contents have not been preserved. Definitely it wasn't cremated bones, and of course we have taken samples for the later studies. 3 vessels are still waiting to be explored under laboratory conditions to be sampled with microstratigraphy. Unfortunately, the vessels are not very distinctive and are not ornamented. The technology of their manufacture indicates that they may be both Neolithic, globular amphora culture and late Bronze Age. Several people have already viewed the post shreds and we have tie in opinion. The bones are very purely preserved, both animal and human. Both were very difficult to explore and analytical possibilities are very limited. The deposits were all at the same level. You can see a little bit darker layer here, presumably deposit on the previous prepared surface. In the layer associated with them, the phosphorus content is higher. Photographs from the 1940s might also suggest that the heart was deposited at the same level. As I began excavation this year in the southeastern part of the embankment, I hope for future deposits, perhaps with more distinctive vessels or perhaps some bronze object. Unfortunately, we discovered no similar deposits in this part of the structure. There was nothing under the layer of stones. We also carry out the geomagnetic survey on the south of the embankment. The main research question was to determine if this is the only structure of this type on this area or if there were more. If it is a barrow, then there should be more. Here is a structure. Here is the one of anomaly. That anomaly could be related to the fire activity, some kind of hurt. And here we have some other anomalies. No, maybe not. Uh, they may be some similar structure, but it may be anomaly related to the modern enclosure. As usually in archaeology, chronology is key. Unfortunately, we are still waiting for the results of radiocarbon dating. We submitted two samples to the laboratory in Poznań, one of an animal bone from deposit 3, in which case laboratory was able to extract collagen. The other sample is a human skull fragment from deposit 5. Unfortunately, in this case, the bone is so badly preserved that the carbon fraction will be dated, which is obviously a very unreliable method. This choice is related to the hypothesis about the formation of structure at Kaliszany. The first hypothesis is that it originated in the Neolithic. The globular amphora culture would be the most likely here. According to Dr. Danuta Żurkiewicz, the pottery from our research can be related to these communities. They also built megalithic passage tombs. In addition, they often deposit cattle and use amber. In this case, the late Bronze Age Howard was buried in an existing structure, we probably without knowing all the meanings of the structure from the Neolithic people. The second assumed that this pottery is not Neolithic and dates from the late Bronze Age. Thus, the act of deposition of heart of metal object was combined with the deposition of other offerings, and so a much more complex cultural practice that is often assumed in horror studies. The offering in this case would also have been a human skull. It assumed that the deposition of metal object is just one emanation of much broader cultural practice, a practice that fits into our session today. You have probably guessed that I am supporter of this hypothesis. The treat assumed at least two-phase construction: the first Neolithic with central large bulges construction and deposit 4 and 5 as a grave. The second is to expand the structure and deposit the remaining deposits known from our survey and heart of metal object. All of these hypotheses give us many interesting possibilities for interpretation. In order to verify this hypothesis, samples were selected for radiocarbon dating. Unfortunately, I will not answer today which hypothesis is more likely. I also don't know if I still late Bronze Age horror researcher or I will have to retrain for Neolithic. Whatever dates the laboratory sends, the site of hard deposition in Kaliszany is very interesting in many ways. On the one hand, the single but very complex act, on the other, the performance of place in landscape and tradition. Thank you very much.